I won't back down. No, I won't.
What's going on, everyone? I'm Jaren, and today we are talking about Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. This coming from the same filmmaker who has done movies like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, The Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr., Snatch, Operation Fortune, and many more. And it also stars Jake Gyllenhaal and Dar Salim. This story follows the war in Afghanistan as we follow a local interpreter who risks his life to carry an injured sergeant through grueling terrain. At first, I thought the live action Aladdin movie was probably the most non Guy Ritchie movie that Guy Ritchie has ever directed, and I was wrong. What could easily be mistaken as the work of Peter Berg is actually the talented efforts of Guy Ritchie himself. The producers and writers, Ivan Atkinson and Martin Davies, have collaborated with Ritchie since the movies like Aladdin and The Gentleman, bringing us a story about bond, pledge, and commitment. Going into this movie, I really thought the focal events that happened with Sergeant John Kinley, Ahmed, and the Taliban were based off of true and specific stories. And it turns out it was really just a dramatization. And I'm not saying that stories like this don't happen, I just thought that we were dealing with a particular and set story. Half the time I was scratching my head thinking, why is a lot of the dialogue overly fabricated or overly dramatic for Hollywood's sake? Going in for another action thriller about the war in Afghanistan didn't necessarily break new ground for fresh ideas. I mean, a lot of the plot devices and results really borrow from films like The Hurt Locker, Thank You for Your Service, Lone Survivor, American Sniper. This may not be Ritchie's most stylish movie nor original script, but there is a level of authenticity, especially when it came to the chemistry and the resilience of our main characters. Structuring the development and journey with John and Ahmed was probably my favorite aspect of the script and in their performances. When both of these characters first meet each other, they are very headstrong in their ideas, their views, and their position in this war. There's even a time where you actually question Ahmed's loyalty to the team. And even from the second to the third act, you really get to see our characters really struggle when they're out of balance with each other, when they're actually not working together. And then you actually get to see a lot of their strengths and how strong and unstoppable they are when they stand together. Sergeant John Kinley is portrayed by none other than the talented Jake Gyllenhaal. He is dishing out a movie every year. He's super busy. He's dishing out two movies if he's on a lucky streak, but he is no stranger when it comes to portraying a brother at arms, especially with his work in Jarhead, which is one of my favorite Gyllenhaal performances. And he doesn't necessarily get to go on the higher levels of his unhinged self, but he is compelling as he is talented. Now, I'm actually surprised that the trailers kept this kind of hidden, but the true talent of this movie was Ahmed the interpreter, played by Dar Salim. I love the way he plays off Gyllenhaal. They are just screen gold, and I love their chemistry on and off screen, especially towards like the core second half of the movie, the core second act, where he is hauling the injured sergeant across rough terrain and evading the Taliban, and he really carried a lot physically and in his performance. He did it with such little words and so much to say behind his eyes with so much emotions. Speaking of the second act, it was truly harrowing, and I know that the trailer does give it away, but we wouldn't have a movie if we didn't have the meat patty to complete our burger. And I know that's a weird analogy to go with, but I'm gonna go with it. This whole cat and mouse game through the canyon, through the rough terrain. It was just nail biting and very viscerally suspenseful. And just going with the way that our characters are just going down the hill at some point, just kicking up dirt, tripping over rocks, and then suddenly hearing a gunshot just echo through the canyon. It was just chilling. I didn't recognize that Johnny Lee Miller and Alexander Ludwig had supporting roles in here. They kind of add a little bit levity when it came to scenes with Gyllenhaal. But the one person that I was kind of surprised at seeing in this movie was Anthony Starr. You might know him as Homelander in The Boys, and he does show up in like the last 40 minutes, and he doesn't really have too much to work with, and I wish he did. Now, I did feel that the inner titles that you end up reading at the prologue and epilogue of the film kind of glossed over a few key points when it came to addressing the war. It almost made it seem like the initial hook that John Kinley and his team made as their objective in the beginning, as well as the local Afghans working with the Americans to earn their visas, seemed more of an afterthought. I mean, I know that the goal was to have the message of the Covenant reach its audience, but it would have been nice to bring all of that in full circle. Overall, Guy Ritchie's approach at making his first war film is bold, genuine, and triumphant. I think that the brotherhood and valor of the human spirit is fully realized and put on display here. And honestly, if this is your cup of tea, it's a no brainer. Alright, guys, that's all I get to share about that movie. Go ahead and check it out if you already saw it. Let me know what you thought. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Big shout out to Hawaii Film Critics Society. I'm Jaren Agbanawag, and I'm going to be getting to check out Beau is Afraid and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, so look forward to those reviews. I'll see you guys at the movies. In the meantime, take care.
Hey, baby, and I won't back down. I was standing